Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, FY 2023 Field Initiated, Encouraging Innovation, hosted by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Tenzing Loudon, Senior Policy Advisor with BJA, to begin the presentation. Tenzing.
Thank you, Daryl, and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As Daryl mentioned, my name is Tenzing Loudon. I am Senior Policy Advisor with BJA, and this is very interesting and exciting solicitation, and we are really looking forward to new and innovative ideas from the field. Today, we are going through a lot of information during this presentation. There are a lot of slides with a lot of information in it, so we may, or I may skim some of the information so I can highlight some of the more important areas. The presentation, as Daryl mentioned, will be made available to everyone after the webinar for reference, including the PowerPoint slides. So in terms of agenda for today, we'll do a brief overview of OJP and BJA and overview of the solicitation. We have a guest presenter who is a current, sorry, we don't have a guest presenter today. It will be followed by an eligibility and application requirements, as well as resources and support that's available to you. And then we will have, we'll save extra 10 to 15 minutes at the tail end of this presentation for any question and answers. We will be taking all the questions at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A function on the right hand at any time during this presentation. So with that, next slide, we have a poll question to get us started. So the question is, has your organization been awarded federal grants in the past? And the options, as you can see on the screen, are yes, my organization has extensive experience with federal grants. Yes, though my organization does not currently have any federal grants. My organization has limited experience with federal grants. And lastly, my organization is new to federal grants and looking to learn more. So I'll just give you a few more seconds for folks to respond. And Daryl, let me know if, if we have majority of folks who have responded, then we can just go into the results of the poll. All right, it looks like it was between, yes, my organization has extensive experience, and, and then maybe most of it is my organization is new to federal grants and looking forward to learning more. So hopefully by the end of this webinar, you would be really interested in applying for this. And we have at the tail end of the presentation, resources, other funding opportunities that link to that, so we'll be sharing that along. So let's move to the next slide. All right, next slide. Thank you, Daryl. So next is, what is Office of Justice program? Office of Justice Programs provides grant funding, training, research, and statistics for the criminal justice community in the field. Office of Justice Program is one of the 3 grant-making offices within DOJ, along with the COPS office and the Office of Violence Against Women. And under the Office of Justice Programs, there are 6 bureaus or program offices that administers various OJP grant programs. We have National Institute of Justice, which is our research, development, and evaluation agency within DOJ. Office of Victims of Crime, which supports a broader array of program and services that really focuses on helping the victims. Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, which supports states and local communities in their efforts to implement effective programs for children. Bureau of Justice Statistics, which is a primary statistical agency for DOJ. SMART Office, which provides jurisdictions with guidance regarding the implementation of Adam Walsh Act, and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and we will cover that in the next slide. Next slide. Great. The Bureau of Justice Assistance, or BJA, was created in 1984 to reduce violent crime, create safer communities, and reform our nation's criminal justice system. BJA strengthens the nation's criminal justice system and helps America's state, local, and tribal jurisdictions reduce and prevent crime, reduce recidivism, and promote fair and safe criminal justice system. Our director is Carlton Moore. Director Moore was appointed by President Biden in February of 2022. Director Moore leads the programmatic and policy efforts on providing wide range of resources, including training and technical assistance to law enforcement, courts, corrections, treatment, reentry, justice information sharing, and community-based partners to address chronic and emerging criminal justice challenges nationwide. Next slide. And the way that BJA focuses on that is through funding, which invests in diverse funding streams to accomplish our goals, through education, including research, development, and delivery of what works, equipping our folks with tools and products to build capacity and improving outcomes, and lastly, partnering, consulting, connecting, and convening with our partners in the field. Next slide. So we are looking to support through the solicitation, we are looking to support new and innovative strategies for preventing and reducing crime, improving community safety, and strengthening criminal justice system outcomes by collaborating with the field to identify, define, and respond to either emerging or chronic crime problems and systemic issues. BJA is looking for proposed strategies to address those issues, including trying new approaches, addressing gaps and responses, and building or translating research knowledge or building capacity. The applications under this program should not duplicate other BJA-funded solicitations. So we are really looking for things that can be that cannot be funded or are not likely to be funded under other solicitations, and more importantly, should have a potential to broadly benefit the field of criminal justice nationally. Next slide. So we are seeking applications that build on approaches and tools that enhance criminal justice reforms, building public confidence in criminal justice system, and trust between residents and criminal justice system. In particular, we are looking for applications that address efforts to respond to precipitous increase in crime and our substance use disorder, and our efforts to prevent or respond to drug overdose and fatalities, improve outcomes for justice system involved individuals, including those who are currently or formerly incarcerated, and lastly, to respond to increase in hate crimes and or increase in access to justice and supportive services. Next slide. So we are on our next poll question. Do you plan to apply for grants under the solicitation? Options are yes, no, undecided, or that your organization isn't eligible, but you are interested in learning about other programs. So I'll give a minute. All right, now let's see. All right. So it seems like organizations are still deciding. So hopefully this webinar will help you decide in applying for it. All right. Thank you for your responses. Let's move to next slide. Next slide. So this slide goes over the solicitation categories. So we have two categories. Category 1 focuses on state, local, tribal, and regional partnership, of course, working with research partner, and we are looking to fund 7 awards for 36 months time frame with a maximum award amount of $1 million. For the category 2, it focuses on national strategies, and we are looking to fund 3 awards for 36 months time frame with a maximum award amount of $1 million. So under the solicitation overall, we are anticipating to fund 10 awards with a total funding amount of $10 million. Next slide. In terms of eligibility, under category 1, following eligible applicants can apply. state governments, special district governments, city and township governments, public and state-controlled institution of higher education, county governments, public housing authorities, Indian housing authorities, Native American tribal governments, federally recognized ones, nonprofit having a 501(c) status, nonprofits that do not have 501(c) status, private institution of higher education, and for profit organizations other than small businesses. I'm not going, saying every single thing, but it's just the general eligibility. Next slide, please. So the first category focuses, as I mentioned, is state, local, tribal, and regional research partnership. Here, applicants should propose to test strategies at any of those levels while working with a research partner to document implementation and also develop tools to support national replication. So while the project could be state, local, and tribal or regional in focus, the importance here is national replication ability. The regional projects must propose a model that is specific to regional needs or could be implemented effectively regionally and then replicated elsewhere. The applicants are required to formally partner with a research organization for development, assessment, and evaluation activities, as well as development of tools to support replication. And an important note here, while you are required to have research partners, no more than 20% of the total budget may be used to support research or evaluation services. Next slide, please. For category 2, eligible applicants are public and state-controlled institution of higher education, including tribal institution of higher education, public housing authorities, American Indian housing authorities, nonprofits having 501(c)(3) status, nonprofits that don't have 501(c) status, private institution of higher education, and for-profit organization other than small businesses. Next slide. For category 2, which is really national strategies, so applicants here would need to develop targeted national strategies that will make an impact in addressing critical needs or gaps in the field. Applicants are required, again, to work with a research partner to document implementation and develop tools to support further implementation in the field. The partnership with research partners that fund to support that partnership cannot exceed 50% of the total budget. Next slide, please. So what is innovative, how we define it? BJA is looking at the field to be innovative and forward-thinking. An applicant should propose a strategy or a response that has not been implemented previously, yet is supported by research data, theory, and evidence. Should propose a new modification to an existing strategy or response that has not been implemented previously, yet is supported by research data, theory, and evidence, or propose a new approach to delivering existing evidence-based strategies or responses that have not been implemented previously and has potential to reduce costs and increase efficiencies while maintaining effectiveness, including organizational developments and changes that may enhance the effectiveness or long-term sustainability of existing strategies or responses. Finally, the approach that seeks to update current knowledge and practice in a particular area of need. More information is available on page 9 of the solicitation. So if you want to look at that on how we define innovative, that would be a place to go. Next slide, please. All right. We have a number of focus areas, and you must address at least one. The first one is develop innovative, fair, equitable response to combat, address, and otherwise respond to precipitous or extraordinary increase in crime or in a type or types of crime. Second one is address and prevent hate crime by strengthening response to these crimes and building relationships in communities among stakeholders. including but not limited to law enforcement, diverse racial and ethnic communities, victim services organizations, etc., through partnership and innovative solutions or pilot programs. Next is ensure a capable and able criminal justice workforce to address increase in crime and public health challenges, and study challenges related to recruitment, retention, and wellness of personnel in criminal justice, first responders, community-based, or partner organizations, partnering agencies. Enhance collaboration with criminal justice, behavioral health, public health system to reduce barrier to success for persons in criminal justice system with substance use and or mental health issues. Next slide, please. These two are more focused on system designs. So the first one is build alternative strategies and systems such as restorative justice approaches, programs that reflect and divert persons from the justice system, and community responder models, and our strategies for addressing other public or order infractions that enhance outcomes for those with criminal justice involvement or prevent unnecessary involvement in criminal justice system. And this may include efforts to expand access to services for individuals experiencing behavioral health needs, substance use disorder, or other crises, as well as supporting law enforcement and our community-driven efforts to effectively resolve problems and reduce arrest. Last here is accelerate justice through creation of approaches and tools that build the capacity to gather and analyze data and information to understand key decision points and levers for change to reduce rates of incarceration, community correctional control, and racial disparities. And some of the examples including through reforming pretrial processes, sentencing practices, mandatory minimums, and collateral consequences. Next slide. So this solicitation was released on April 27th of this year. The solicitation is closing, or the due date for this is June 15th. Please remember, there are two deadlines. The first deadline is June 8th. That is the deadline to submit your SF-424 and SF-LLL forms in in grants.gov. The second deadline is June 15th. That deadline is to submit your full application in JustGrants. We highly encourage you to submit your application in grants.gov and JustGrants prior to the due date to allow sufficient time to correct any errors or any issues with submission. And that gives you enough time to, if you are having any technical issues, that you can reach out to our customer help desk hotline. Next slide. As I mentioned, we are expecting to make 10 awards under this solicitation with maximum awards of $1 million.
So we are expecting to make 10 awards under the solicitation with a maximum award amount of $1 million for the entire performance period of 36 months. And the start date for the award will be October 1st, 2023. Next slide. So Daryl, I hope this is it's coming clear.
Yes, 100% clear. Yeah, we actually got a comment that it was very nice and clear.
Okay, thank you. All right, so here are 11 application sections. I'll go through a few of these in more detail in the following slides. And then in addition to those, there are additional attachments that are required to be included in your application. They include timeline, resumes, or job description, letter of support, memorandum of understanding. And most important thing to note here is the required section. So things that says the SF-424 required, proposal abstract required, narrative. So please pay attention to those because those are required elements. And I would highly encourage you guys to please use application checklist on page 33 of the solicitation to help guide you and to make sure that you are submitting everything that needs to go with your application. Next slide. So I think I covered it earlier, but few items. For the timeline, it should be for 36 months and should outline goals and objectives, summarize major activities, expected dates of completion and responsible agencies for activities, resumes for all grant-funded staff, and attach those letter of support or MOUs that highlight your key partnership and us and what they're supporting, what support they're providing, their role, and how they plan to collaborate. Disclosure of pending applications, research and evaluation, independence and integrity, etc. Next slide, please. For the proposal abstract, the abstract is a short, no more than 400 words, summarizing the proposed project. It needs to include applicant name, project title, the funds you are requesting, goals, objectives, activities, key partners, proposed end products, and your ability and willingness to serve as a peer expert. Next slide. And if you're seeking a priority consideration, then you must state which priority areas, and also you would need to list which goal or goals if you are trying to address more than one. You're seeking to address. So first is responding to precipitous increase in crime or a particular type of crime. If you are trying to address substance use disorder or to prevent or respond to drug overdose and fatalities, improve outcomes for justice system involved individuals. Lastly, if you're responding to increase in hate crimes or increase in access to justice and supportive services. Lastly, I know this project abstract is starting to feel like program narrative, but this is the last piece. The abstract should include specific language that indicates which of the allowable uses and activities the project will address, along with each use or activities percentage of the budget. So that matrix is on page 19 of the solicitation. So that helps you envision how the breakdown will happen for that. Next up is proposal narrative. So the proposal narrative must include 5 sections. These sections will be weighted in the scoring of the application. So you have description of issues, which is 15%, the program design and implementation, 35%, the capability and competency, 25%, the plan for data collection, 10%, and the budget component is 15% of the application. And then there is description of what should be included in each of these sections and proposal in the solicitation. And the section should not exceed 15 pages and should be submitted as an attachment. The important thing to note here is the weight of each of these sections. The big chunk of the points, for example, here is dedicated towards program design and implementation, which is 35%. So you should use that 15-page of your real estate accordingly to, so you should spend more time in talking about program design and implementation because that carries more weight in scoring matrix. Next slide. In terms of budget, for category 1, I think we talked about it, but just to reiterate, project must include no more than 20% of the total budget to support research and evaluation services. For category 2, no more than 50% of the total budget can be used to support research and evaluation services. For the budget, make sure that all your budget line items are itemized and that costs are explained in the budget narrative section. There is no match requirement for this. If you are planning to host events or convening or something along that line, please address the prior approval, planning, reporting of the conference, meeting, and training cost. If you're seeking a priority consideration, 1B, based on identification of at least one proposed subrecipient as culturally specific organization. The proposed funding for the subrecipient in the web-based budget form must reflect a minimum of 40% of the budget funding. The budget narrative must also describe how the activities that will be funded with minimum of 40% of the award funding provided to the subrecipient specifically relates to the priority consideration requested and should be described in the capabilities and competencies section of the application. Next slide. I think this is our last poll. Now that you have heard more about this program and application process, are you ready to apply? Options are yes, no, undecided, not eligible to apply, but interested in learning about other programs. If you say no, I would not take it personally, but I really encourage you all to apply. And I'll give a few more seconds to it. All right, so we have some, and my organization plans to apply, and my organization is deciding. So great responses. And for those folks who have not responded, hopefully you are planning to apply. Next slide. So BJA resources. The first link here will take you to our current funding opportunities. And the second link here will take you to the solicitation page where we will be posting recording of this webinar and PowerPoint slide for this presentation. Please refer to solicitation for all necessary information and required documents. This presentation is meant to highlight the most relevant information, but not everything is covered. The last link here takes you to the site that will provide e-learning videos, reference guides, and other resources to help you successfully complete the application. All right. The OJP Application Resource Guide provides guidance to assist prospective applicants in preparing and submitting application for OJP funding. So that's the resource page where you can go and, it will walk you through those steps. Next slide. All right. So here is the link to OJP's grants management system, and that is both for current and prospective applicants. Next slide. All right. As I mentioned, applying for OJP grant is a two-step process. The first step involves submitting the SF-424 and SF-LLL in grants.gov. And if you have any issues, you can reach them at the customer service hotline number or you can email them. The second step requires submission of full application in the Just Grant system. And if you have any technical issue with the application submission, please reach out to Just Grant's customer service hotline, email, or call them. The hours of operations are listed for both here. These are two separate hotlines and two separate email addresses. So, depending on what the issue is, please feel free to reach out to them. Next slide. So what you're seeing on screen is some different ways to connect with us so that you make sure that you are getting the latest information about solicitation and programs and other support as soon as it's available. And you can text OJP with your email address to subscribe to the email updates. Next slide. You can also go to these links to subscribe to our Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and then you can go to our website at bja.ojp.gov. You can explore a lot of different opportunities and resources that's hosted on our website. You can also sign up to be on our email listserv. And also that will make sure that you get information that you're looking for on ongoing basis. Next slide. So if you have any questions about the solicitation or programmatic aspects or the solicitation requirements, please contact OJP Response Center at this email address, or you can call us at the provided number, and folks there will reach out to you with responses to your question. Next slide. I know we are repeating ourselves, but we are only repeating because it's really important and we get a lot of confusion and questions about this. So its application submission is a two-step process. First step is submission of SF-424 and SF-LLL. That happens in grants.gov. The deadline for that is June 8th at 8:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The second step is submission of full application in Just Grants by the deadline of June 15, 8:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next. Again, important contact information for grants.gov and Just Grants, as well as for OJP Response Center. Next.
Great. Thanks so much, Tenzing. A portion of today's webinar. If you do have a question, at the bottom right, 3 dots, hit Q&A, select all panelists, and those will be queued up, and we'll be able to go through those with the remaining time we have today. Also, as noted in the chat, the PowerPoint recording and transcript will be posted to the BJA website. So you'll be able to access those post-event to reference as you need. So Tenzing, if you're able to pull up that QA box, do have quite a few questions in there.
Sure. So the question, what of the question? Let me just. Is a university an acceptable research partner? What is a disbursement schedule? What if we use funds to hire someone and therefore do not have their current resume? So we actually receive some version of this question a number of times, and the best response I can give you is to look at the research integrity document and all of the explanation that you should have in order to demonstrate the independence and integrity between the two different units or departments. It's okay as long as you can show that they are independent pieces. About disbursement schedule, I think it depends. Yeah. If you use to hire someone and yeah, so I think like we understand that you might not, you might have a you're planning to have a research partner, but you don't know who that research person would be. It's okay to, you can, in the capabilities and competency section, you can explain that this is the person that, these are the qualifications you're looking for in the person that you're planning to hire to do the research piece. So that would be fine. But I think we would prefer like this, all solicitations, once we get all the application, it goes through an external peer review process. So they have a first go at the top applications. So I would say just provide as much information as you can about who you are proposing for your research piece. Daryl or Tammy, I'm not sure if you have, if you can provide a link to the research integrity document. It should be on that one of the website for application resources document, but Daryl or Tammy, if you can provide that.
Okay, yes, that's listed within the presentation earlier, so you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Right. Yeah, for the question around organizational chart, yes, you can submit that as an attachment, so it's not counting towards your 15 pages page limit. I think it's always good to submit organizational chart if you have. It's not required, but I think that's a good thing to submit. So there's a question about just to clarify, does a specific attachment need to be created and submitted to summarize major activities, expected dates of completion, responsible agencies, or is covering these topics in timeline, budget, and narrative sufficient? I think yes. So it is. So if you can submit a separate timeline document, separate budget and budget narrative, separate abstract, and separate proposal narrative. Those are required pieces. So, and those pieces, like you don't need to submit a separate document for activities and separate document for your proposal narrative can include some of those goals, objectives, activities, and things. Can we submit an existing MOU if it's between a proposed partner, or does it needs to be a new one specific to partners? So I think for that question, if they are your partners in the proposal that you're submitting, you can use existing MOU that you have with them. But the point here with MOU is it should say how they are going to contribute to this new proposal that you're submitting, and provide some, outline the roles and responsibilities, or like those kind of things. So I'm not sure if that's already in your existing MOU, but that are some of the things that should be part of MOU. I think for the question around for category 1, can we be our own research partner? I think I kind of talked about it. It can be yes or no, depending on how you respond in the research integrity questionnaire. So if you can kind of like say that your research piece or the unit or department is a separate entity that can be independent and demonstrate independence and integrity between the two different units or department, then it's okay, but you would need to submit that and explain it in your application. I think for the question about if we are planning to subgrant a portion of the money to a partner, do we need to know our partners before we apply? Similarly, can we have different partners for each of the 3 years? Yes, to the second question, you can have different partners. And I am just assuming, just an example would be you are, piloting a new innovative idea in different regions or different locations. So maybe in year 1, you're focusing on X target area, on year 2, a B target area. So that's okay to do. If you're, it would be good to know your partners before you apply, but it's not required that depending on what that partnership means, like if they are very if your partnership relies heavily on your partner, then I would say it's important that you know who your partners are when you submit the proposal. But I guess it's not necessarily required that you know them, but it would help your application if you know and have a more clear picture of who your partners are and what are their strengths, weaknesses, that you have done that SWOT analysis, how they would contribute to the project and things. For the question, can a research for category 1, can a research organization be an organization that we are already partnering with, funded by another funding source, or does it has to be another vendor? So I think so it can be, an organization that you are already partnering with to do like, a research on different area, and you have really good working relationship, and they are, you can have them as a research partner. There's no issue with using the same research partner for a different project, if that's what the question is. It does not need to be another vendor. I hope that's what the question was getting at. Like, you can be, it can be like, just an example, and I don't know the full situation here, but a bigger research organization might have capability to be doing multiple research projects at the same time. So in that case, if they have capability to do work on multiple research projects with you, that's okay. Oh, I think the question is, what criteria are used to determine if an organization is qualified research organization to partner with? And is there a list of currently approved or qualified research organization? We have not, maybe NIJ or might have a list of research, but there's not, we don't have a list of qualified research organization that we are asking you to partner. So yeah, we don't have a list of research partners that we are asking you to partner with. It can be someone that you have worked in the past that has done good research work. So yeah. The question is, by support research and evaluation services, is that salary? I think it depends on, like, how you budget it. Sometimes people have in-house, like, big universities might have research centers, and that can be part of the salary piece. Some might use contractors or consultants for the research piece. Then it would be in a consultant contracts or that section. So it depends. So for the question, what if applicant is a nonprofit awaiting their 501c3 status from the IRS when they apply, but then they receive their 501c3 status afterwards? I think you have to. So I think, like, so in the eligible applicants under category 1, it's nonprofits having 501c3 status with IRS other than institution of higher education, or nonprofits that do not have 501c3 status with IRS other than institution of higher education. So I hope that answers the question. Yeah, so I think that is another question related to it, was the same, around the same thing. So the question is, to clarify on disbursement schedule question, beginning October 2023, are all the funds made available for 36 months of the grant, or they are disbursed annually? So our grants is on reimbursement basis. So you don't get the full 1 million upfront. You would submit your federal financial reports, and then I think it's through Treasury that you do drawdowns and things. But it's based on reimbursement. We do have it's a longer process, but we do, like, for folks who need advance payment for things, we do have that on option. But Daryl or Tammy, if you can put link to DOJ Financial Guide, I think DOJ Financial Guide would will provide additional details on the payment piece. For the question, will the references and citation page be counted with narrative 15-page limit? So you can attach a separate document that is a reference and citation document if you don't want the reference and citation to be counted towards your narrative. If you put it at the tail end of the proposal narrative, then I'm thinking it might get counted. But just to be on safe side, I would just say, just add a sentence at the end of proposal narrative saying that, there's a separate attachment with reference and citation. And then you can use the full 15-page for narrative. And that is to be on safe side. I don't recall if, yeah. So the question is, the project would cover separate areas, so I don't think that will be an issue, even though it's the same vendor. Makes sense. Thanks. I'm thinking that's a statement and not a. So the focus area, you can cover in your application more than one focus area. So it can be addressing precipitous increase in crime piece, and substance abuse and use aspect, or it can be talking about how to address hate crime piece. So yeah. So the question is, does the award have to fund direct services, or can it just fund technical assistance to jurisdictions and research? So we, so we are looking to support new and innovative strategies to prevent, reduce crime, improve community safety. So anything along that line, we have not said specifically that we want, only to fund direct services, or we are only doing TTA. So it can be a combination of those factors, as long as it's, new and innovative strategies to address one of those 4 or 5 focus areas that I talked about. So the question is, are we able to submit a proposal that would complement a proposal currently submitted for a different DOJ grant that we are currently waiting to hear back about? So I guess like my question would be, would, you can submit application there or proposal, just make sure that you emphasize, like, is it depending on the proposal that you submitted for that other grant? Like, does it, can this proposal that you're submitting happen without that other proposal so I think you just have to think about it more, and you can include that narrative in your application in terms of, like, that you had submitted this complementary proposal and for this project that will enhance this or that element of your proposed pieces, and then how it would, even if that project gets funded or not funded, it will not have an impact. And also, I think in your disclosure of pending application, if there is some pieces that are overlapping, then you need to notate those on disclosure of pending applications. The next question is, can the funding source be limited to the juvenile justice system, or must it be used for a larger audience? I would say, like, I would be interested in reading that proposal, even if it's limited to juvenile justice system, because we are just really looking for new and innovative strategies of addressing and strengthening current criminal justice system. So I think, you can proceed to apply. I don't think that we are, there's any issue if it's just for juvenile justice system. I think there are questions that I have not, it's 2 o'clock, and I know there are questions that I have not gotten to. So We will be responding to those questions that came in and we didn't get time to respond to later this week or early next week. And yes, thank you, Tammy. I would say please send your questions that didn't get answered to our OJP Response Center. They will definitely make sure that your questions are answered. You have, I think, almost a month now to submit your application. So I would ask that you send those questions into OJP Response Center and they will be responding to your questions. So I think I would want to thank everyone for joining us today. And we very much look forward to all your exciting and very innovative proposals that you send to us. And I do appreciate your time today. I'll pass it back to Daryl for any other questions, for any other comments that he might have. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, very comprehensive and a lot of information to get to, and just be on the lookout for the posting of the materials if you do need to go back on things once we conclude today. So on behalf of the Bureau of Justice Assistants and our panelists, we want to thank you for joining today's webinar. This will end today's presentation.